The Doomsday Clock 2020. The Doomsday Clock sounds like a silly name for a device from a B-grade post-apocalyptic movie, but it's actually a real-life measure of how close the world is to its own destruction at any given time. The Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists, founded by Manhattan Project scientists who invented the nuclear bomb, with 13 Nobel laureates on its executive board, just moved its doomsday clock to 100 seconds before midnight in January 2020, and that was before COVID-19 had ravaged most of the world, and riots were happening in many US cities. Today on Sky Legacy TV, we are going to look at the doomsday clock and why we may be closer to the end than we might think. What is the doomsday clock? The doomsday clock is a symbol that represents the likelihood of a man-made global catastrophe. Maintained since 1947 by the members of the Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists, the clock is a metaphor for threats to humanity from unchecked scientific and technical advances. The clock represents the hypothetical global catastrophe as midnight, and the Bulletin's opinion on how close the world is to a global catastrophe as a number of minutes to midnight, assessed in January of each year. The main factors influencing the clock are nuclear risk and global warming, climate change. The Bulletin Science and Security Board also monitors new developments in the life sciences and technology that could inflict irrevocable harm to humanity. The clock setting is decided without a specified starting time. The clock is not set and reset in real time as events occur. Rather than respond to each and every crisis as it happens, the Science and Security Board meets twice annually to discuss global events in a deliberative manner. The closest nuclear war threat, the Cuban Missile Crisis in 1962, reached crisis, climax, and resolution before the clock could be set to reflect that possible doomsday. The clock's original setting in 1947 was 7 minutes to midnight. It has been set backward and forwards 24 times since then, the largest ever number of minutes to midnight being 17 in 1991, and the smallest 100 seconds, 1 minute and 40 seconds in January 2020. So why do scientists think we are closer than ever to destruction? The scientists are sounding the alarm not due to subjective fears caused by a fanatical and uninformed president with his finger on the nuclear trigger, but from a dispassionate assessment of terrifying realities. Humanity continues to face two simultaneous existential dangers, nuclear war and climate change, that are compounded by cyber-enabled information warfare that undercuts society's ability to respond, reports the Bulletin. The threat posed by nuclear weapons has become more perilous because virtually the entire edifice of arms control, which at least added some stability to the nuclear face-off, is being dismantled. President Trump already deep-sixed the Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty, and the last remaining arms control treaty, the New START treaty that capped Russian and US nuclear arsenals, is on the verge of expiring, with the Trump administration showing no sign of giving serious consideration to talks. The United States and Russia are on the verge of launching another nuclear buildup, with our country planning to squander another $1.2 trillion over the coming decades on the folly. Meanwhile, the climate emergency is visible in fires and droughts and floods across the world, from Australia to Missouri. Millions have already been displaced. The billions already spent are just the beginning. Governmental action on the climate emergency falls far short of even the most modest hopes for survival, with carbon emissions still increasing. Yet Trump has pulled the country out of the Paris Climate Accord, weakening its already limited progress. Basically, these two problems, which have been problems for quite some time, have been enhanced by recent disharmony on the international stage that makes it seem that cooperation to solve these issues will be increasingly difficult. How will we get ourselves out of this assured destruction? Across the world, young people are rising to protest the failure of the elders to lead on climate and other issues. Perhaps these demonstrations can put societal pressure on leaders to begin to right the ship before it is too late. Politicians may still find there is a price to pay for failing to lead, but surely the Bulletin is right. We are a handful of seconds from catastrophe, and the clock is ticking. Until next time, this has been Sky Legacy TV. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. Thanks for watching.